Everybody to January's podcast. Here we are on 2026, another year, and we're going to start the year this time with a podcast all about people, because people are really the most important part of what we do here at Cumbria Wildlife Trust, because without people we wouldn't be able to do any of the wonderful work that all the fantastic conservation teams do across the trust. So this morning I'm joined by Marian Jones, who is our Head of Community.
Hello, Joe. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely no problem. So we're going to be talking about how people are involved in what we do, how important that is. And we've just had 15 minutes of trying to work out what we're going to talk about, because it's such a complicated beast. And because people are involved at every level of what we do. And like I said, we couldn't actually do any of this without people's help and without taking people along with us on this journey. So can you give us a little bit of an overview about what your team does?
Yeah, sure. So our role is all about creating activities and experiences aimed at helping people of all ages and backgrounds in Cumbria to connect with and value nature, and then encouraging them to take action to conserve and improve it. Initially, they might just come for a talk or a drop-in session. They might take part in some volunteering on a conservation day. But ultimately, could we get them taking action for nature in their own community without needing lots of our support? And that would be a great way of sort of scaling up the work that we do to look at sort of targets like 30 by 30, which the Trust just can't do by itself.
Absolutely. And we have a community team, which is absolutely brilliant. But your team also facilitates people being involved across our work, doesn't it? So whether it's marine conservation, whether it's nature recovery on land, or whether it's within our nature reserves, people are key. And your department help facilitate that.
That's right. So in our team, we've got Ruth Allcroft, who's our volunteering coordinator. I think you've had her. I think you've had all of our team on the podcast at some point as well. Lizzie, Ben and I look at community work. And then we've got project officers like Amy Stydolf, who runs the Community Nature Reserve at Cold Springs, and Freya Lovett, who's doing work with schools up in Carlisle. So we sort of have our remits, but then we support the engagement work that happens across the Trust as well. And whether that's through grassland conservation, peatland on the reserves, out along the coastline with the marine team. So like you say, Joe, there's an awful lot that goes on, whether it's recruiting volunteers to help with habitat restoration or species conservation, or whether it's consultation and listening events as well. So we've been doing quite a bit of that to support the Skiddaw Forest project, speaking to local residents around Skiddaw, finding out what it is that's important to them, how they'd like to be involved.
Yeah, because getting people involved is so utterly important. I bang on about this all the time, about volunteers and how we couldn't do it without them, which is an absolute truism. But it's also, it's not just about that, is it? It's about trying to get people to understand the importance of wildlife, the importance of nature within our lives, which even if people aren't doing specific things, they still support what we do. You know, they're still our supporters. They're still people who are advocates on our behalf and on behalf of nature conservation.
That's it. So some people might think that they're not taking action to nature. They just come along to one of our talks every so often. But having that understanding and that awareness might well shape the way that they vote in a next election, local or general. And that is all helping, I say, like advocate for nature, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so as an example of this community engagement that we do across the Trust, we're going to go and listen to an interview that Liz has done with Joe Harper. Now, Joe is our Allonby Bay engagement officer. Allonby Bay is our only highly protected marine area, which was designated in 2023. And there was a lot of confusion, I think, within the local community about what the designation was about and why it was. So the marine team has employed Joe specifically to go out to talk to the local community about what's special about Allonby Bay, to listen to them and their concerns, and to help the local people and the local community really appreciate what a fantastic place Allonby Bay is.
Okay, good morning, Joe.
Morning.
Well, here we are overlooking Allonby Bay. And it's been a really wet winter's morning, though it's clearing now, but it's been very monochrome all morning, very grey. And it's a bit hard sometimes to discern what's special about this place.
I mean, like you've just said, we've had such a windy, rainy, horrible morning. But looking at it now, there's blue sky. You can see the beautiful mountains of southern Scotland over the bay there. And the weather has changed so quickly. It really is a beautiful part of the world. But not just the landscapes, but the nature here is incredible. It's got just incredible amounts of sea life, plus the bird life. I mean, I've been sat here this morning while waiting for you to arrive, watching little egrets and herons and oyster catchers flying past the window. It's a gorgeous part of the world and really special.
Tell me again about the nature of Allonby.
The big really interesting part here is the honeycomb worm reef. So honeycomb worms are a species of reef-building worm, relatively closely related to earthworms. And what they do is they use bits of sand and bits of shell that they find as floating past them, and they attach it to their bodies as a bit of a protective sort of layer. And these protective layers can actually build into these really quite complex 3D structures. They look a little bit like coral reefs. And here in Allonby, we do see sort of at super low tide, these huge expanses of these reefs. And each reef can actually hold up to 36 different species that use it as a nursery point, as a feeding area, that kind of thing. So really, really important area for them. So we've got that here. We also have loads of different shark and ray species that use it as a breeding ground. So as you walk along the beach, I can almost guarantee you now we will find some mermaids' purses. They're absolutely out there. And also, we certainly get a good number of harbour porpoises here. And we've certainly seen a good number of calves. And at the moment, they're trying to do the research into whether they're actually breeding here. So naturally, it's an amazing part of the world.
So, Joe, it's not that there are any aspects of the bay that are completely unique, is it?
No, not at all. It's the accumulation of everything.
And it was this that was recognised recently, and it's been given special protection, special designation. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was 2 or 3 years ago, it was designated as a highly protected marine area. So we can acronym that to HPMA. It's an entirely new designation. It's never been done before. It's been trialled in England across 3 sites. The interesting thing about this site is it's the only one that's got a community associated with it. But what HPMA does is it actually protects everything. So the classic line that I like to use is every grain of sand is protected by law. So this is every single thing is fully protected with given the gold standard of legal protection that you can give a marine area. So yeah, it's fantastic that it's happened here, and it is fully unique in that it is the only inshore highly protected marine area that exists in England and the UK as large as well.
But how big is it?
It starts just south of Allonby, and it goes, it extends along the coast right the way down to Maryport Golf Course. So it's about just over 3 miles in its entire length, and then it also travels about 3 miles out to sea. It's an almost perfect square. There's a couple of little bits that have been removed to allow for navigational buoys and things like that. But yeah, it's around a 3 mile square along the coast and then straight out to sea.
The weather really has cleared now, Joe, hasn't it? It's completely blue sky, despite all the flooding on the way here. I think now would be a good time to go out and really experience it.
Absolutely, yeah. You've seen how quickly the weather can change, so I think let's do it now before it changes back.
Very sound advice. Let's go. Yeah, so Joe, you brought me outside now, and we're a little bit south of the village now, and we're just going to pick up the cycle path and walk along there for a little while. And we're actually going to cover some of the trail that's been commissioned, and it's looking absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
It's looking amazing. So we commissioned this trail from a company called Tail Trails, made by an extremely talented artist called Anya. And what it is it's a walk round part of the protected area, and as you go round you'll follow a story and a poem laid out by Tom Pop Lenny, who lives in the area and talks about all the different species that they encounter.
So the Blenny's the narrator?
The Blenny's the narrator, absolutely, yeah. So on one side there'll be the story of the Blenny, on the other side there is a lovely map.
OK, well, let's get started.
Let's go and have a look, yeah. I mean, this cycleway is amazing. It goes all the way from just north of Allonby all the way down to Maryport, and it gets used absolutely loads. It's also part of the new King Charles Coastal Path as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I always think that these things are wonderful in this time of year when some of the footpaths get so muddy, don't they?
They do, they absolutely do. It's great for people with less mobility as well, so there's people with wheelchairs coming down here so they get to experience it. So.
And just here, we're just coming into the dunes, really, aren't we?
We are, yeah. So we're just, like you say, just coming into the dunes. To the left, you can see the pond down there. An amazing place for sort of wading birds and wetland areas. We are in an area here where we've got the natterjack toads as well. There's none officially been sighted in this area, but certainly to the north and south of us, there's natterjack toads up at Moorbrain, a little bit further down towards Cross Canonby Nature Reserve as well.
And they're really special, aren't they?
Really special, really rare. And in the spring and summer they sing on a night, so you can hear them as you're walking through the dunes. We've also got so many birds as well. There's in the summer you get your goldfinches and your blue tits. Got the permanent wading bird population of curlews and oyster catchers, that kind of thing. I see sparrowhawks here most days and kestrels. So it's a really special place for bird life.
So we're really sandwiched here, Joe, aren't we, between the Solway Firth and the sea on the one side, the right side, and then over to the left, the Lake District Mountains.
Absolutely, yes. So you can actually see Skidder from Allonby. As we've already mentioned, you can see Scotland over there on the right and the sea. And actually, just about today, we've just seen it this morning, you can just about see the Isle of Man as well from here. So you get some really incredible views all the way around.
There can't be many places like this.
I don't think there's any, to be honest.
And there have been shipwrecks along this coast too, haven't there?
Absolutely, yeah, there's certainly shipwrecks. So a lot of the houses here have actually, the beams that build the houses are actually made from an old ship that was broken, that was wrecked here a few hundred years ago, which is amazing when you get the opportunity to actually see inside some of these houses and you can see these old beams. So yeah, huge numbers of shipwrecks, largely due to the really quick tides. It's actually the second highest tidal range in the UK after the River Severn.
Oh wow.
Hugely fast tidal range, which can surprise lots of ships.
Okay, Joe, so we're just going to head down onto the beach now?
Yeah, we'll head down from the dunes down to the beach and see what we find down there.
So we've just come out onto the beach here. Gosh, it's such a wide expanse, isn't it?
It's huge, and the really interesting thing about this beach is every time I come down it's different. So we're looking at the moment of this sort of channel that's been carved out by the water here. That won't be here after the next tide, that'll have changed. There'll be a whole new channel happening somewhere. So yeah, literally we've just stepped onto the beach and just looking down, the amazing things that you can see, and it's absolutely exceptional. And there's our first mermaid's purse here. So I mentioned about the different shark species. This is from a cat shark, this one.
Just describe what it is, Joe.
So it's a shark egg. It looks a little bit seaweedy. It's sort of rectangular with sort of a bulge in the middle, and at each end there's these I suppose you'd call them like fronds that they would use to attach to the rocks. Yeah. And that would float in the water where the shark would then develop within it. And you can actually see there's a hole in the middle. So that's where the shark's actually hatched.
And it's come out.
And come out. So the amazing thing about what you'll find on this beach is everything you'll find on the beach is something that has lived, that's since passed, because these things, when they're alive and working, they're attached into the water, so they won't be able to get onto the beach. And then once they hatch, that's when they move up.
Yep.
So
it's done its job.
It's done its job, exactly.
And the beach is just a sliver, really, of the HPMA, the highly protected marine area, because lots of it is actually. We're looking straight out onto it now. It's underwater, isn't it?
The vast majority is underwater, yeah. So as I say, it's about 3 miles out to sea. So almost all of it is underwater. I mean, we've maybe got, 200 or 300 metres here and then a huge amount underwater. What we find here is really evidence of how amazing it is under the water. We're seeing sort of a window into what's out there. So we know already that there's hornwrack out there. We know that there's cat sharks. We just found one of the eggs. I've just spotted down there as well a thornback ray egg as well. So there we go, thornback ray eggs. Just from here we can sort of get that evidence base of what might be out at sea.
Yeah. The thornback ray case is amazing, isn't it? It's another little rectangle. So that's a single egg case.
That's a single egg case. And I find that you can tell the difference between a shark and a ray, because the shark is long and thin like a shark and the ray is flat and wide like a ray. So they sort of look a little bit like the animal that they've come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, so it might be nice to head down onto the sandier bit of the beach as well, because we might find some evidence of different worm species and things that live under the sand.
Yep. So Joe, we've just arrived down very close to the sea now, haven't we? So we're on the sandy part of the beach now.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably one of my favourite parts of this area. We're down here on the sand. We're away. I mean, it's hardly the hustle and bustle of the village, but it's really quiet, and you can just hear the sea and the wind. And we're next to this little channel that's been carved out by the river water heading towards the sea, and you can hear that. And just the birds, and I find it really peaceful down here. Just watching 2 oyster catchers just flew off just now, and really interesting as well once you sort of know what you're looking for. We were talking coming down about the worms, and you can see the worm casts that they leave. So the lugworms live under the sand, and they leave these casts above their burrow where they've pushed the sand out for them to be able to fit in. And this sort of zonation going on where at the top they're really small, then at the bottom they're really big. I don't know what the reason for that is. It could be there's more nutrients at the bottom, I'm not sure, but it's really interesting. So yeah, it's a really special place, I find.
A huge sense of space as well, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah, a huge sense of space. You feel the skies here are like nothing I've ever seen before. I mean, we saw it when you came up. You could see the blue arriving and the storm sort of heading back over east. Unbelievable, and just sit and watch weather patterns happening in front of you, which is fantastic.
Absolutely wonderful. So Joe, we're back up on the cycleway now with that fantastic view of Criffel on the other side of the Solway Firth, and we're back in the village. I mean, it's important, isn't it, that the local community is very much involved in this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when I started in this role, there's a little bit of confusion about what this highly protected marine area was, about what the rules and regulations were. I had a few people coming up to me and sort of saying things like, "Oh, you're stopping me from walking my dog on the beach," and that kind of thing, which is a completely valid thing to think, because there wasn't much information given about this. So I think first off, it's really important to acknowledge what you can and can't do in this area. So the rules are: you're not allowed to do any kind of building or dredging. You're not allowed to do any fishing. You're not allowed to drop an anchor. And you're not allowed to take large amounts of stuff off the beach. So largely, these issues aren't going to affect your average everyday person. So you can still absolutely walk your dog on the beach, although there will be more information sort of posted about how to do that responsibly with ground nesting birds before the new season. You're absolutely allowed to go out with your kids and build a sandcastle. You're absolutely allowed to go and enjoy the beach as you did, go for your walks. Whatever you want to do, those things are still absolutely fine. But yeah, I think it's important just to acknowledge the fact that we're not here to stop you from enjoying the beach. We're just here to make sure that enjoyment is as responsible as possible.
So the aim is to have the beach and the seabed as undisturbed as possible.
Absolutely, yes. So this already is designated as near pristine. So it's already an incredible place. There's a huge amount of different rare and unique species living in this area, which is absolutely fantastic. The aim here is to keep it that way. What we want to do is we want to stop any possibility of large industrialisation happening here. We also want to reduce the impact of industrialised fishing along with angling, and just make sure that this area is kept as special as it already is.
Can we talk a little bit more about the kind of misinformation and the kind of stories that get out?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I've heard a couple of stories. I've heard people telling me that things such as the Coast Guard coming down and with a megaphone asking people to get off the beach, which isn't true at all. You know, stories about people walking up and down the beach and telling people they need to leave, and things like that. I mean, I'm not sure where these rumours started, but they've sort of spread around the village, unfortunately. But you know, fundamentally, these things aren't true, and that hasn't happened.
You've mentioned enforcement, Joe, but actually, we're not so much about enforcement, are we, as about engagement?
Absolutely, and just to make it absolutely clear, Cumbria Wildlife Trust, we are here simply for engagement. At the beginning of this, a lot of that work was actually just me walking around the village and chatting to people. So lots of cups of teas, lots of cups of coffee, heading down to the coffee morning, going into the Allonby Historical Society and doing a talk about the protected area there to lots of local people. And that seemed to work really well. The amount of misinformation I'm hearing has reduced significantly since then, which is great. Then we're working with Cumberland Coastal School, who are actually working with local schools in the area to get kids down onto the beach, which is fantastic. We're working with a group called the Lal Collective, who in early 2026 will be getting those same kids into artistic workshops, and they're actually going to be publishing a book about the Solway in Allonby Bay, written in the kids' words. We're going to be getting out there, talking to dog walkers that are walking past, doing these dog pit stops to talk to them about ground nesting birds and what things that they can be doing to assist with that. Loads of other more typical bits of engagement, getting people out onto the beach and getting school kids out onto the beach too, which is obviously a really big part of it. And then there's the volunteering side as well, so working with our current marine champions to actually train up more marine champions in the future. So we'll have new marine champions, new survey days happening throughout the West Coast. We've also got the Young Volunteers West group, so that's young people under 18 years old that want to come out and do volunteering. So we're going to be looking at doing litter surveys, doing bird surveys with those young people, developing their skills for the future, along with the 3 wildlife watch groups which happen in Maryport, Harrington and Parton, and that is for young people who want to get out, want to experience nature, want to do things on the beach. So we've had a fire pit out on the beach where they could roast their own marshmallows and collect their own wood. We've been talking with our new red squirrel engagement officer, who's going to take them out into areas where there's red squirrels in those 3 areas. So yeah, there's loads and loads and loads of stuff that's happened, is happening, will be happening. So yeah, huge amounts of things going on.
Well, that's fantastic, Joe. and you were saying to me earlier that your contract here is only for 2 years, but after the 2 years, you want to be handing this on to local people.
Absolutely. So these volunteering opportunities are to my mind, the most important. So as well as the ones I've already mentioned, we're also going to be starting doing some water quality surveys with volunteers as well, so they can get out and have a look at the biggest issue that has been voiced to me by the community, which is the water quality in the area. And what I'd like is the Wildlife Watch groups, the Young Volunteers West, as well as the citizen survey days. If I can get to a point where I pass those on to volunteers from in the community who can then talk to Cumbria Wildlife Trust about assistance and aid that they might need, but also running it themselves, really what I'd like. I don't want this project to end with me. I'd like this project to continue, but continue in the hands of the communities of this bay.
And local people now are very supportive already, aren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, one thing I've noticed being here is the local people are so interested in their own nature, and I think that the governments from outside the area coming in and sort of putting these designations in place without properly necessarily explaining them has maybe initially made people a bit tentative about it, but now we're getting to the point where I've got support of the majority of the parish council. They're really involved and sharing all of our events that we've got going on and that kind of thing. When I chat to people in the village, everyone's like, yeah, it's so cool, it's amazing, this kind of thing, we're so lucky to have it here. And I think people are starting to get the message that it isn't a thing that's been forced upon them, it's a thing that they should feel proud that it's been put here rather than anywhere else in England. Here's been chosen for a reason, and there should be pride in that, I think, and people are starting to understand that pride, I think.
Well, what a fantastic interview there with Joe, and he gives a brilliant idea of, one, what's so special about Allonby Bay, but also about this idea of getting everybody involved and making sure that everybody's being brought along with him.
So, yeah, Joe's doing a fantastic job in Allonby, but I think it's an extra challenge for him that the designation has already taken place. All this sort of community building work that he's doing, it would have worked so much better had it been the build-up to a designation, had it all happened beforehand. So he's sort of trying to retrofit his work into this sort of fait accompli, I suppose. So that's an extra challenge for him. He's trying to retrofit this into work that should, in an ideal world, would have happened before the designation took place. But that's the approach that we're trying to do now, is engaging communities and building them in from the absolute beginning of any work or project that we're thinking about.
This is a kind of new approach, isn't it, that we're doing towards community engagement, towards getting individual communities to possibly do more for themselves and us facilitate what they want to do, listening to those communities and then helping them along that journey.
Exactly. So we still get lots of requests for support and advice from groups who are looking to set up community gardens or wildflower meadows, and that is absolutely fantastic to see. But as much as we'd like to, we can't support that many groups on a one-to-one basis. So we're taking a kind of what we're calling a Wilder Cumbria approach to work. So that's what we're calling our community work. We can't do it all ourselves. So we're looking at how we can help them develop the skills, the contacts, the networks, collaboration they need to do it at a scale. It's a sort of community organising approach. Traditionally, organisations like ourselves and other wildlife trusts would have planned a project, say focusing on habitat restoration, and then invited people to come and participate in it, to plant trees, wildflowers, come along to open days to find out about it. And we do still do a lot of that. But alongside it now, we're getting out into communities and finding out what's important to them. What is it that they're trying to do? And then how best can we support them to do it? So it involves a lot of listening, a lot of conversations, a bit of nudging, putting people in touch with each other. And it's really hard to show the impact that we're having, but that's the work that we need to do now.
Yeah, I mean, getting 30% of people to take action as well is one of our 30 by 30 goals, isn't it, you know? But it's a brilliant approach because it's enabling people to get on with stuff themselves. It builds that capacity, doesn't it, across Cumbria. So, Marian, tell us a little about, because I think it's ridiculously important that we influence people into the importance of nature, the importance of wildlife, the importance of their environment at an early age. So we're also heavily involved in education work, aren't we, and influencing children from a really early age.
Yeah, young people are one of our sort of key audiences for our engagement work. Like you say, if you can ignite that spark at the beginning, you've got a champion for nature, for life, haven't you? Yeah. And so programs from sort of Nature Tots, which is capturing them from a very, very young age, right through to our wildlife watch groups, our young volunteers programs, and then sort of specific training like the apprenticeships and student placements that we have that are sort of giving our future naturalists and environmentalists the training that they need. So yeah, they're very much a focus for our community work.
I'm so proud of the placements and the apprenticeship schemes that we've been doing that come through my department, through the reserves department, because all of those people have gone on to great things within nature conservation, you know, and I now meet some of them at meetings, you know, with the organisations that they're working for. So we can bring this all together with the example of Cold Springs, can't we? Because Cold Springs is a new way of working that we've gone down recently, opened in May last year, is a community-led nature reserve, and we haven't really had anything like this before, where the community is deciding the direction and then taking that whole reserve forward.
That's it. So I think, was it back in 2019, the Trust was gifted this land on the outskirts of Penrith. It's 3 grassy fields, sort of habitat, I guess, in the past the Trust might have sort of dismissed. Would that be fair to say, Joe? Thinking, well, there's nothing special here. It's not something you want to save. But we were gifted this land. And we realised, well, actually, this is almost a clean slate for biodiversity to build on. And so there was a lot of consultation work back then to see, well, what is it that communities want from this space? It's right next to a brand new housing development, so an awful lot of sort of new families on site there. And they said things like they wanted a space to walk their dogs, they wanted a space to appreciate bird life, they'd like to see a community orchard, they wanted a wildlife garden. So all of that was built into the plan for the reserve and is all taking shape now on there. And a steering group with local residents was set up. So they're now sort of setting the direction and the management plan for the reserve. While there are sort of things like our volunteering programme very much in process there with our conservation days happening, there's now volunteer-led activity happening there as well. So now it really is sort of the community has taken ownership of the reserve and doing that work alongside us. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a fantastic example, isn't it? And hopefully we'll be looking at more community type nature reserves and spaces in the future, you know, where we can get the local community doing the work on our behalf.
I think as we develop that approach, it'll really add weight to our nature recovery work, as the two go hand in hand. And if we can develop nature recovery projects in response to local community priorities, there's a far greater chance that they'll have long-term success, because you've got that buy-in and that involvement from the absolute beginning, and it long outlasts any sort of external funding that comes in.
Absolutely, because so many projects, we get all these people involved, the funding stops and the project stops, doesn't it? And when you've facilitated, when you've helped these communities to move on for themselves, then that keeps that legacy going into the future, doesn't it? Fantastic. That's just a great deep dive into the people involved in our work. A massive thank you to everybody who gets involved, the people who help at Cold Springs, the volunteers who come along on all these work days, the people who are involved in setting up the tree nurseries and all the skidder stuff. It's just wonderful. And like I say all the time, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without all that help, which is fantastic. So I think we'll bring it to a close. Thank you so much, Marian, for coming along and explaining what your team does so eloquently.
Thank you, Joe. I've tried my best.
Brill. Thank you to Joe as well for that brilliant explanation of what's going on at Allonby. The days are getting a little bit longer. Get out on some nature reserves and enjoy the wildlife where you are. And we shall speak to you next month. Thanks.